For this project, we examined Hawthorne's tale of Hester Prynne as it relates to his thematic elements relative to personal growth through tribulations and created two themes relative to that growth. First, a person is a reflection of their history and what they do with it. And second, what better motivation when someone is in a hole than their unfortunate circumstances to pull themselves up and out, even to a point where societal expectations are rerouted for a positive outcome. Thus, by examining Prynne's ability to turn punishment into strength and how it relates to people in the world today who've done the same, we highlight how Hawthorne's works in the 1800s will make sense in the 21st century.
The first thing we looked at was, when one is at a disadvantage, they can use that misfortune as motivation to achieve great things that may ultimately lead society's views to change around that particular person in a positive direction. In Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter, Hester Prynne is unfortunately publicly shamed because of her sins, and as a result, has a difficult time living in Puritan society. However, despite these difficult times the Puritans present her with, she strives to do the best she can and even pushes herself to better the community that disdains her. At the beginning of the story, the Scarlet Letter was surrounded with an elaborate embroidery and fantastic flourishes of gold thread. It had all the effect of a last and fitting decoration, but greatly beyond what was allowed. It was found to be that those who had known her before were astonished to perceive how her beauty shone out and was a halo of the misfortune and ignominy in which she was enveloped. Over the course of several years, Hester's good works would not go unnoticed and even end up influencing the views of the Puritans so positively that they said the Scarlet Letter meant Abel. The letter may have taken its time to transform Hester, but either way, she was self-ordained a sister of mercy, or what we may rather say, the world's heavy hand had so ordained her. The letter was a symbol of her calling. Along with society viewing Hester praisingly, Hester herself felt that she had become stronger resulting from the letter. But Hester Prynne had habituated herself to such a latitude of speculation. The Scarlet Letter was her passport into regions where other women dared not tread. Shame, despair, solitude, these had been her teachers, and they had made her strong. The Scarlet Letter, which used to be a symbol of shame, therefore ceased to be a stigma which attracted the world's scorn and bitterness, and became a type of something to be sorrowed over and looked upon with awe, yet with reverence too. Eventually, Hester found that the letter was a symbol of her calling. Such helpfulness was found in her that many people refused to interpret the Scarlet A by its original signification. In conclusion, Hawthorne shows how far Hester had come since the time she was outcast by society to the time that society revered her in saying, the Scarlet Letter had not been its office, and had she fallen among thieves, it would have kept her safe. For our first theme, we found connections to people throughout history and in the modern day. James Earl Jones had a speech impediment growing up, but ended up as a successful actor. Frederick Douglass was a slave for years, but then became one of the most important abolitionists in history. Also, Matthew McConaughey had a rough life growing up, but then became a successful actor like James Earl Jones. President Obama faced racial difficulties in politics, but ended up as the president of the U.S., while John McCain was a war veteran who suffered a devastating injury, but then became a successful U.S. senator.
We also looked at another theme in the Scarlet Letter. A person is made up of their experiences and what they do with them. In the Scarlet Letter, Hester Prynne made a terrible mistake where, as punishment, she had to wear an embroidered letter symbolizing her sin. But throughout the story, the letter becomes a passport into regions where other women dared not tread, showing how she turns her curse into a thing to learn from, instead of cowering from. As the Scarlet Letter forces her to be removed from society, the jailer says, thus, she will be a living sermon against sin, until the ignominious letter be engraved upon her tombstone. But, over time, the letter changes meaning. As Hawthorne writes, the letter was a symbol of her calling. Such helpfulness was found in her, so much power to do, power to sympathize, that many people refuse to interpret the Scarlet A by its original signification. Hester's growth is only underscored when Hawthorne writes how shame, despair, and solitude had been her teachers, and that they had made her strong. Adding on to this, Hester's experiences fundamentally alter who she is. As we see later in the narrative, Hawthorne writes, she has not known the weight until she felt the freedom. In this, we see Hester gain a fresh perspective on herself and what real freedom entails as a result of her suffering. Despite the fact that the punishment was intended to destroy her, the Scarlet Letter had not done its office, and instead serves as evidence of her fortitude and development. Hester could no longer borrow from the future to help her through her heavy present, and is forced to meet life as it is instead of escaping. While Hester learns to live openly, Hawthorne uses the observation no man for any considerable period can wear one face to himself and another to the multitude without finally getting bewildered as to which may be the true. To show Dimmesdale's tone, his hidden guilt and divided self that contrast with Hester's hard-won honesty. To add to this, the novel reaches beyond any single character when Hawthorne suggests that a new truth will be revealed in order to establish the whole relation between man and woman on a sure ground of mutual happiness, pointing out a possible change in society that Hester's experiences help to point out. In the end, the novel shows that people are made not only by what happens to them, but what they learn and choose to do with those experiences. Hawthorne is not just assessing Hester's life for shock or punishment, but instead showing how the foundation for identity is constructed upon life's greatest challenges. We learn that suffering can breed strength when one acts upon it and learns from it by watching Hester in her subsequent transformation of the letter into a life lesson and service. Yet this lesson also applies to the modern world. Through the Malala Fund, girls once treated with violence in closed schools now lead international campaigns for education as their learned risks turn into coordinated policy work and funding for girls' education. Similarly, Greta Thunberg and other climate activists who began protesting as children now maintain a consistent international presence and summits, debating that personal beliefs manifest in public arenas. Long COVID sufferers, those who suffer from long-term COVID systems, turn their suffering into patient-led activism and research, changing the course of funding and study approaches. In addition, student survivors of school shootings have become organized civically through March for Our Lives to ongoing sustained campaigns for change. Sentiments like these support Hawthorne's ultimate lesson that it's not the experience that makes a man, it's how he responds to such experience and acts upon his understanding.
We see that, much like today's world, Hester Prynne had to overcome the struggles of being socially outcasted, and the way she overcame those struggles is what made her into the person that she